these guys, they still know how to play the game. They will still have gone through strategy and they will still be prepared, quite rightly, underprepared comparatively to how they would have been, but they can still certainly put up a fight here.
Now, we've talked about comparisons an awful lot here, you know, comparing who has the better game types and maps and modes. Obviously, Quadrant are going to take that one, but then Sentinels have been looking to try and find their footing and try and actually be dynamic as a team with the chemistry. You know, Clutch, when you're looking at the comparisons here, who do you see having the edge? Are you looking at the roster who has had to have a last-minute addition come in, or are you looking at Sentinels? Yes, the maps and modes don't favor them, but they have been together the entire way through the qualifiers.
Yeah, the issue here is that Sentinels has been like underperforming. So they're looking for something like this series in particular to turn their entire dynamic around, to turn like their momentum and get the ball rolling. They need a nice convincing win. And Quadrant, they're going to look like roadkill in this series. The game types do not matter to me. I know, Dan, you already said Sentinels are favored in a lot of these game types, but with a sub on your team, you don't even know what your strong game types are on the side of Quadrant. Sentinels, I'm looking at this to be a dominant fashioned win. Recharge oddball is maybe something that Quadrant can get ahead of because Sentinels weren't very efficient in their objective against Optic earlier today. But I expect it to be a lot easier when you're not playing against the likes of Lucid, APG, and company.
Well, do you know what? I totally listened to the wrong part of what you said, Gaskin, earlier on. I thought it had favored Quadrant, but you're right, it does favor Sentinels here. Talk us through how, in fact, it does.
I mean, actually, throughout the qualifiers, they've only lost one of these maps once, and that was Oddball Recharge. Every other map here for Sentinels is flawless. It's 100%. They didn't lose Imperium at all throughout qualifiers on Slayer or Capture the Flag. So when you look at series layouts, everything's going towards Sentinels, and I think that makes things go from bad to worse for a Quadrant roster who not only have had to make a change, but now are looking at Sentinels on arguably one of the best series layouts they could have asked for.
Indeed. I've got to ask, on the side of Sentinels, though, we talk about, you know, players stepping up and having to step up and have a really big series or a big game. Who are you looking at on that Sen roster? Because so far, Spartan has really been doing some massive, massive things, winning huge pivots, but also heads-up plays that we actually went through earlier on. Is it going to be Spartan again here for you, Clutch, or is there somebody else?
Well, I mean, you got playmakers across the board on this team, right? I think anybody can statistically pop off. What I want to see from Sentinels is some efficiency. I want to see some good Halo play by this team, some cohesiveness. Show me that your strategy, your communication is on point, and that when you're given an opportunity to have complete map control, you can hold a setup, you can cap a flag when you get 4 down. Things like that are going to be so pivotal to showing me that, hey, the ball's rolling in the right direction, because we know Spartan, we know Kuhlect, they're going to be hitting like no-scope doubles and making plays and openings and opportunities in that situation. It's a matter of, can this Sin team be on the same page well enough to cohesively get the job done against a lot stronger of opponents down the road? And if you can do it against a less strength of opponent, that shows me that you can do that same replicate that same strategy against the higher level opponents. You just need those situations to fall into your hands.
Yeah, indeed. And falling into our hands is going to be the battle of that global right on the backstage right there. I'm very excited to see these two go head to head. We do have our casters ready to talk to you about both of these teams. We have Walshy and Tony. Over to you, lads.
Woo! Feels good to be here at the HCS Charlotte Major kickoff. Oh my gosh, I'm excited to be here. Quadrant, Sentinels, how you feeling, Dave?
I'm feeling great for this series. I mean, there was a couple question marks surrounding both these squads. We saw some of those questions answered in that first series with Sentinels taking on Optic. Sentinels looked really strong in my eyes. They answered a lot of those questions. Yes, they fell to Optic, but we're talking about the 2022 world champions here. Whereas this is kind of that squad of misfits, kind of like, not exactly like a leftover squad, but like that motley crew, as we've been saying. There's such strong talent in here, and how do they gel together? And from what I saw, especially in that Argyle CTF right off the gate against Optic, they look good.
Yeah, I was really excited to watch, you know, Kuhlect really come into his own. Those nasty no-scopes were really dominating in that Argyle game #1. Even Spartan stepping out and being that main slayer. I know he's been having trouble getting used to his sensitivity. Clearly he found something that works for him, because he was slaying out all series long.
Yeah, it's funny. It's I would say, when I look at Spartan's POV, he's always so on point when it comes to his shooting, his ability. So to hear he's even doing those little fine tunings to make that even more deadly, it's just a scary thought. The other scary thought is Spartan getting his own head? You know, he's got to get out of there.
He really has. And on the other side, you know, Quadrant coming in. So like kind of they mentioned at the desk, I've had high expectations for Quadrant coming in. And, you know, They had a big substitute in two Foxy coming in. Some big shoes to fill. Chick was that secondary slayer, that dirty work player. Can two Foxy really fill those shoes?
I mean, it's got to be the opportunity and roller coaster of a lifetime here for 2Foxy. If I recall correctly, after the online qualifiers, I remember 2Foxy saying, well, our run ends there, this is rough, and now getting that second chance to say, all right, I get a chance to compete Charlotte with a top squad here, let's do this.
We're going to take a look at the series layout here, but Sentinels versus Quadrant coming up next, and this pool is just going to be so tough, so much competition, and going into oddball recharge, which I would say normally favors Sentinels to begin with, but the fact that the substitutes coming in, the fact that we're not sure what we're going to receive from Quadrant, Sentinels really have to come out. I would say even 2-0 here. They're already a great oddball recharge team to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, getting that 2-0 start would be great, but ultimately, I look at all those game modes, and I see 4 out of 5 being very snowball-y. I see the only one that's really not a big snowball game mode as Aquarius CTF, but we are gonna kick it off here. Recharge oddball. We got Sentinels versus Quadrant. Let's kick it off with these two teams.
All about controlling the sandbox. Shock rifle, camouflage, add a couple of reposts, a little bit of grapple in there. Make sure you control out that glass or that tower side. Who's it gonna be? Sentinels. Is it gonna be Quadrant? Game number 1 is on the way.
Tony, you just listen off all the weapons there and add-ons. I'm like, all right, if you were selling me a car, I would buy it. You're like, you know, I'm gonna throw in power windows.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw in de-icing back windows. I'm gonna throw everything.
Okay. I'm not buying anything from you. I don't trust you, man. KingNick, though, snatching up that shock rifle and the camouflage combination, one of the most dangerous combinations that we have here at Halo Infinite.
Yeah, and with that shock rifle, look at how careful he's playing. Just realizing that time is on his side. As long as he just stays alive, gets some damage across the map, his team's gonna take advantage of it and go flying. But look at that, desperately he was gonna try to grapple the ball and just eliminate it right away. That's the opening Quadrant needs. Not only did they take care of that camo player and grapple player, they took out the shock rifle.
I love that idea by KingNick. Sadly, wasn't executed best because Quadrant coming in with the quickness. And Sica even able to take down one to the grave with her, so a big trade by him. 2Foxy are gonna move that ball.
And I'm also gonna count that one as an Insta. Technically, that got exploded off the very first one. We got our first Insta of Charlotte that gets cast. You know that makes me happy.
If Dave calls it an Insta, I'm gonna call it an Insta. That's fine by me. Off screen, SLG and Lqgend getting back-to-back kills, but Spartan answering right back over toward the bottom mid-side of the map, snatches up that repulse, and now some excellent flank shots onto Sica, but Sica somehow stays alive.
Sica stays alive, but also a little surprised in there how Spartan didn't expect the rest of the players to come out from elevator. You see that one last player over an elevator, you're not blocking those spawns. He exposed his back for that brief moment in time to potentially get punished from catwalk or from top elevator.
Well, that's the play that KingNick wanted to do. Spartan now gonna snatch that ball up with that grapple. We do see off the screen Lqgend and SLG trying to push up onto the gold side, and they're gonna get back-to-back kills. KingNick and LethuL end up going down. That's the first kill they need, but of course Spartan drops that ball and immediately puts in the water.
And look at that difference there in those up-close melee battles. You're gonna see this much different here on LAN compared to online. These players aren't gonna get those lunges. They're not gonna know exactly when they can hit that. So you saw how Spartan danced perfectly, allowed that player to whip the melee and took 0 damage from a melee there to get that first kill.
But a big double kill out of the man of the hour, 2Foxy. Not only able to get that camouflage, but able to put it to work immediately as well as he looks to move over toward that gold side. Ball is coming with them. Quadrant get into the early setup, and they're gonna take an early lead here.
I like this play. It looks like they're just clearing this path through long haul and prepping a rotation so they can play ball this if they need. And that's all the info that they needed. They saw another player weak over in the pit. They had the C-plat, and now they have 2 options. Hold in pipes or rotate it over towards C-plat.
2Foxy have a lot of responsibility here, holding on to the A side. Multiple members of Sentinels now pushing up over toward the long haul.
And that ball rotation was cut off though, Tony. What I thought was originally a great clearing. Sica gets caught off guard over in that trippy corner. And now because of it, they weren't able to revert that ball back over towards pipe. Luckily, Quadrant had the slaying ability and they clear off all 4 members of Sentinels to get control of that ball.
Hey, the best game plan is offense, offense, offense. And if you wipe the enemy team, it doesn't matter. As Quadrant once again getting that ball into the early side C setup, and of course Lqgend with the shock rifle body shot gonna connect. KingNick ends up going down. A second one's gonna challenge. Lqgend being so sneaky around the pole, working the pole like he knows what he's doing. Somehow Legend's alive. He's controlling the tower side. He's gonna line it up, but sadly, LethuL was on the other end of that one.
I was gonna say, totally threw off LethuL. Here in America on the roundabouts, we go clockwise, whereas here's just running counterclockwise.
yeah.
Actually, no, I think it's,
Yeah.
I
Drive
just
on
got
the
my
right.
mind all jumbled there. Actually, we do go counterclockwise, but moving on here, we're going with LethuL and the shock rifle, taking over this catwalk, and gets a sick shot over on Lqgend. So much damage across the map. Last player alive. LethuL's too smart. He is not going to challenge that one to the death, but still gonna be a nuisance towards that player over towards batteries.
Lqgend wasn't able to take down LethuL with that shock rifle, so LethuL takes it right back and puts it to work. Kuhlect stealing the camouflage, and here comes Sentinels ready to take the lead. Kuhlect denying access over to the long outside. The commando shots are gonna connect. Sica ends up going down. Sentinels hold on to the setup.
Also, such great aim there from Kuhlect and that first fight. Generally, if you do a grenade lead on somebody and it doesn't do any damage, you're expecting at least a little bit to be on there, and so sometimes your shots might be a little jostled or a little windmilly. Instead, Kuhlect just laser beaming those shots.
Speaking of laser beaming, LethuL coming in, beaming everybody with the shock rifle. I thought he was an objective player. He'd be slaying like this? I didn't know.
He is just putting up big, big numbers already with 8 kills on the board. Almost make that 9, and look at that. What a nice repulse to stay alive there from LethuL. In a situation where most people trade out that death to stay alive, LethuL repulses away, gets that sick kill on SLG, and continues to lay down damage, be a nuisance here to this Quadrant roster.
Why would they leave that man when he's playing like this? They gonna try to come back over the Sentinel. LethuL slaying out right now, 11-8. KingNick still manning that ball time, as well as Sentinels are moving into the end game. Just 10 seconds away. Spartan dropping the people's elbow quick. Sentinels looking unstoppable, but Quadrant are gonna steal that ball and try to play it off. Great rotation by them.
Great rotation by Quadrant indeed. Generally, the position that Spartan was going to get control of, that catwalk, is very strong if your team already has the ball over at glass. However, as soon as your team loses that position, as soon as you lose the ball, you now are spawning the exact opposite corner across the map. So it's a fine, delicate balance. It can be the perfect setup, or it can be the perfect spawn trap for your team to get stuck in.
Full map control so hard to hold on to, but Sentinels managed to come off of the spawn, get the slays they were looking for, steal that ball, and now round number 1 go to the boys in red. Sentinels taking the first one.
And they looked so good there as they closed out that first round. It looked a little shaky. There was a lot of times where Quadrant would get the kills, but as time went on, Sentinels outslaying, outmaneuvering the objective, and going out strong. LethuL, however, to a slow start there here in round number 2. SLG getting the better of him, over in control, and getting that strong position. Looks like KingNick now has camo. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, KingNick so far not starting off the way you would want him to. A little 3-12 performance so far. 7 assists, so I like that. And I like him with the camouflage, but trades out his life.
Not what you want with a camo. You don't want to trade, but one kind of silver lining there, though, Tony, is that if KingNick is going 3-12 and you're still winning the round, that's a great sign. Because what's going to happen as soon as KingNick picks it up? What happens when he goes even or starts out slaying like we see him do consistently?
While all that happens, Kuhlect whips off a nasty double kill and somehow stays alive despite being one-shot that entire time. Kuhlect still holding on to this gold side angle here as multiple members of Quadrant trying to push up. Lqgend comes in. SLG tried to come with the bait and switch. Lqgend didn't have the help he was looking for, and somehow Kuhlect takes down 2. The third one is going to fall. That is a breakdown by Quadrant.
Kuhlect holding true to his name. I've been recently watching Sandman, and they called some of those serial killers collectors, and Kuhlect is just taking names and bodies with the most kills on the board in this game.
Collecting skulls right now is more like it as Sparty comes in to clean up some of the pieces here, but luckily Quadrant are able to rebound, push right back over toward the gold side, and now they have the control and have that early ball time in hand. 20 seconds or so until active camouflage comes up. Can Quadrant somehow get the ball and camo at the same time?
It's going to be a tough order. Down a person here against Sentinels as it's popping up. And this is the second time we're seeing that Quadrant having that oddball stuck over near the trippy spot. This time they're able to rotate it out just fine. But it goes to show that a couple times when they're trying to rotate the ball from glass over towards the long haul or the reverse, they've been getting snagged. So that means they either need to get a little more control before they rotate the ball, or just rotate the ball a little faster.
Once again, Sentinels able to get away with another camouflage. This is going to be a pivotal one as 2 Fox have no idea where he's coming from. Returns to sender. Spartan drops a nasty double kill. He's not done. 3 go down here for Quadrant. Spartan got that dog in him.
That was so sick by Spartan the dog. 2 times back-to-back, throwing out that plasma, repulsing it as a fastball across the map. Single-handedly getting control on the map here for the Sentinels roster. If you recall, when Spartan had that camo, it was a 2v4 scenario. Somehow Sentinels got that camo, but because of those sick back-to-back plays, Sentinels in a strong, strong position.
Spartan coming in quick, able to take down Sica. That's 2 down for Quadrant here, but Sentinels still have to clear out this gold side, and nades are coming in left and right. Despite this, it looks like an excellent shot by Spartan. You can't stop all those grenades coming at you. It looks like Kuhlect's gonna get chased out, so Quadrant chased all of Sentinels off their yard. And now manning that top last side, manning that gold side of the map.
Yeah, and this is a good time for Quadrant to pull through, but they have, in my eyes, limited time until KingNick comes online. You highlighted before in that first round, only 3 kills. It was 3 and 12. So, well, so far to start off this round number 2, not so different. I believe it's a 1 or 2 kills and 8 deaths here in round number 2 for KingNick. So, you know, we got to highlight the good with the bad, and so far, KingNick, it's not reflecting well on the scoreboard.
Hopefully KingNick will be able to bounce back here, and hopefully Quadrant can take advantage of this because they're currently down 0-1 in round, still looking to tie things up. But that the camouflage is coming up, and Quadrant are finding the frags they were looking for. Finally, we should see a camouflage in the hands of Quadrant, and on top of that, they have the A-side setup here. Quadrant have woken up.
Nice A-side setup. The important key here to this A-side setup is deciding if you have to play bullet back towards the bomb center pit, or if you get an opportunity to rotate it through pipes. A couple times for Quadrant, anytime we've seen them try to rotate it through, it hasn't been successful. But look at this charge from Sentinels. They break through the elevator setup. Quadrant does not get the play ball, and now Sentinels are gonna have an elevator setup.
But a straight nade from Quadrant ends up taking down his own teammate right there, so really fortunate for Sentinels as LethuL breaks right through. An excellent response coming out of them as they look to take back the lead, but Quadrant still only 12 seconds away from taking this round.
But yeah, you have to wonder what if Quadrant played that ball in the bomb center. Wherever they spawned across the map, they could have contested this. They would not be having to charge across Catwalk. Here comes 2 Foxy in a very revealed position, and it's just a matter of time before 2 Foxy gets picked on off. But look at this, pushing from above, pushing from below, all angles coming in here for Quadrant, and it seems like Sentinels don't have the control across the map that I assumed they did, and that setup gets broken off once again.
LethuL was able to drop that ball and do damage onto multiple players, but Sentinels not able to clean up those pieces here, so Quadrant break through. They're able to play that ball into no man's land, so that ball going to be used as bait at the moment here. Who's going to get first hands on it?
And that's exactly what you want to do. As soon as you start to lose control, play that ball inside of the map, give your teammates all across the map a position to be a factor and to punish someone going for the ball. The whole goal is just to get a numbers advantage. At some point, if you can force the enemy team to be on the bomb side of the map, or forcibly put one of their players in a bad position, grab the ball where you can pick them off and punish them from touching the objective. That's the best you can do in a bad situation.
The camouflage coming up here in 10 seconds. Kuhlect. Despite the fact going against a nasty strafe right there, he kept that reticle centered, able to finish off his kill, but now has 2 more members pushing up over toward the long haul side. Luckily, he was just a decoy. KingNick steals camo.
Somehow Kuhlect also getting away there. When I saw him round the corner with 2 members from Quadrant there, I was like, all right, Kuhlect's going to the death screen, but somehow his movement's so quick and rapid that able to round that corner and get away and buy time for his teammates. Still looking across the slays. KingNick, stronger performance. One also thing to keep in mind is KingNick has been that strong OBJ player for his team this entire game. Most time on the board for his team, most time on the OBJ this game.
Surprised to see KingNick with that camouflage and the oddball, because you're just putting a beacon on your head here. They patched that a little while ago, and
not the same as like the flag
one.
What? Like sometimes you do the flag camo run, people are like, I can't hit you. Like that's been kind of like a new strategy here in matchmaking.
Well, here it is. KingNick forced to play the ball off the map, but just 4 more seconds needed, 1 minute and 23 seconds on the clock for Quadrant to try to make a miracle happen here. Kuhlect with the plasma pistol, gonna deny access to this ball, because you know there's 2 members on his flank side, almost able to take down the first one with that nade. Luckily his teammates have his back, the cleanup crew comes in, both teams are 2 down, this next kill, so important.
So smart there by LethuL as well, or interesting play by LethuL. As he knows that player's behind the battery, he decides just to reposition. Doesn't want to get stuck and be a sitting duck over at the top elevator. But here we go, 2Foxy, 7 points away from scrapping up these last few seconds. I don't see anyone in position here from Sentinels. We got ourselves a tie game, Tony.
There it is. Quadrant forced that play ball over towards the C side. They played damn near perfect Halo in order to take over the gold side of the map, and they steal that round away. Round number 3, anything could happen here.
Both these teams have gotten to see starting strats from each other. Here is the final round, though. One of these teams walking away with a victory here on Oddball, and who has had the better starts? At the beginning, I feel like it's been Quadrant. I feel like Quadrant's been winning those major engagements over towards Control and C-Plat. But this time, we see 2 members of Quadrant fall. Lqgend falls, arguably the greatest player on their squad. Now, our Sentinels will be able to take advantage of this. They have the camo, they have the numbers, they need to get the ball.
My question for you, is that man a sub or a starter? Because I see 27 kills, 13 assists, 30 seconds worth of ball time, 2Foxy. Too good in this matchup so far, and a thorn in the side of Sentinels. A large reason why they were able to take round number 2.
Got an opportunity and making the most of it. Not only just going for those slays, you also see 2Foxy putting 30 points of OBJ on the board, making sure it's a team player, because I feel like you could slot in a really good player on any of these squads, and if they really want to be selfish, they can put up good numbers.
What you know about playing OBJ? I bet you were a stat back in your day. I bet you never touched the objective.
Somebody had to do the dirty work, Tony. Somebody had to do the dirty work.
I don't know. I saw you flanking all the time. I saw you always in the base on pit. I didn't see you shooting nobody.
Looks like we had a little technical difficulty there, so we'll get a ruling here from the TOs in just a moment. But we got ourselves a series. We got ourselves a game, so I'm excited to see how these 2 continue to battle out when we get back in.
Yeah, I was really excited to see Sentinels and how they're going to play on their first LAN, because it's, like you said, a motley crew, a very interesting crew, you know? I thought it was going to take them some time to really get into their own, to become that top 12, top 6, maybe even a top 14, but so far, I feel like they're looking good. On the other side, I thought Quadrant, you're bringing the last-minute substitute. I thought they were going to struggle as well, but so far Sentinels and Quadrant really taking advantage of the opportunities that were given to them. They were dominating.
All right, and what's going to happen here for round 3 between Quadrant and Sentinels? It's just a full replay of round 3. So whoever wins this round of Oddball wins game number 1, since it was tied 1-1 going into it. Now, the stats are going to be clean, which I feel someone like KingNick is going to appreciate going here into this final round, as he had a little rough of a start, but he actually started, like I said, come online towards the end of that game. Like, he was doing such a good job controlling the ball, getting slays, he had the most objective time of the game. But right here, fresh slate for both these teams. We're kicking it off here with Spartan the dog, who's going to charge on over towards Pipes.
And that is a really good point that you bring up here. You know, your mental is going to be tested after coming out. You know, having forced to reset. Now you got to press that mental reset button and go and keep the same energy that you did in the round that you won.
And I mean, KingNick, 2 kills, 0 deaths right off the bat. What a brand new refresh can do for your mental state. And he knows for all these players that control, just gonna lay down some damage, walk away, and sees those ticks still going on through. Just realizing all these players are getting weakened over control.
KingNick, definitely one of those players that takes advantage of that disruptor, one of the best disruptor players that we have in the game. One of the best shock rifle players, but the Commando is what's going to come into the close range, and a 1v2, it just didn't have the numbers he was looking for, and it looks like Quadrant going to overwhelm them there.
Yeah, it looks like we'll also probably get this one reset again, as there's a minor tech issue there on the main stage, so we'll let them deal with that, because I don't know how to fix any of that stuff, man. That's not my job. I'm just here to try to look pretty.
Well, what do you think we brought you here for? What do you mean? Get in there and get them in the lobby.
Most veterans at this point, but generally you start to see, like I said, that main recipe for a successful Halo team is a couple veterans, a couple young guns, and who can build the better squad.
We'll definitely keep you updated on that matchup between Believe the Hype and Luminosity. Remember, they were up 1-0 was Believe the Hype, but Luminosity started off that game too well. But let's go right into the matchup that I know you guys are waiting for. Round number 3, just 88 seconds needed in order to come out with the win. Sentinels have the advantage here.
I love that play from KingNick, and yes, I'm obviously biased towards instas, but literally just reading where players are going to come from and can do damage. Ended up getting 2 assists, I believe, possibly from the insta. Flying that across the bottom center and set his team up to get those slays and deny that camo.
We tried that as a combination, you know, main slayer, you know, support player, and the Walshy player of the tournament, and it's who had the most instas.
Pretty much, yeah. I would be totally down for that. I'll start giving a cash prize for that end of each week. Don't quote me on it, but looking here at Spartan, see what he's gonna do, because now that he's on the bottom of the map, this is a spot where Quadrant can charge all the way across the top, avoid one member, and they essentially have a 4v2 because one player's holding the ball, one's on the bottom of the map, and you can use that number advantage to your advantage charging across. But it looks like did not work out well for Quadrant, as Sentinels still put time up on the board until they play balled it over at back Hydra.
A 22-0 run by Sentinels, who already have a 12-second advantage going into this matchup to begin with. It's up to Quadrant to answer back. You're forced them to play ball, but now you have to slay out another time and get that ball for yourself. Looks like that's exactly what Quadrant's gonna do. Early ball time here, and already working on the spawning players.
Great play by SLG, getting the perfect shots, finishing off Kuhlect, and this is a great position here for Quadrant. I like how they didn't wait till they got more and more slaves before picking up that ball. You said they got 2 down and instantly beeline for that ball and ran over towards pipe. Now we got ourselves a tie game.
I told you, SLG stands for Slay Like a Gunner. That's exactly what he's doing right now. The double kill, the killing spree, almost able to get the triple, but the damage has been done. Sentinels fall 3 down. That should be more ball time being earned by Quadrant. They've taken the lead.
And Camo's up, but nobody brave enough to run towards it just yet. That's gonna be one member of Sentinels going towards bomb center, picking up, I believe it was KingNick that snagged it. Now can KingNick get out of the pit? 2 lives have been spent trying to get this camo. It's just KingNick and Kuhlect, and they have to do some damage to get out of this bad position.
Hasn't been the most consistent player here for Sentinels, but so far, playing well with that camouflage. 4 kills, 3 assists to go along with it. Working onto his fit. That's going to be a trade out with SLG. Sentinels still having the numbers advantage. Sentinels also rotating ball.
Look at that, reflecting the plasma shot, just doing everything. I feel like I'm watching Sparty's TikToks again. They're always over in my feed, and it's always about like, Commando is OP, or check out this triple kill I got. And I just feel like I'm watching those all over again, playing in my head as I see him just do the sickest repulses with those plasma grenades earlier in this, and then with that plasma burst.
Set up here for Sentinels. You have Sparty over towards the A side of KingNick, spread across the glass side, and look at the way they're able to help each other out despite being across the map, cleaning up those call-outs. Quadrant fall 3. One more player left who's being held back here while this happens. Sentinels continues to put points on the board. Remember, they only need 88.
Only need 88 to close this one out, but they're in such a strong position right now. Elevator's being taken though, so that's really good for SLG, but no! Insta kill for Spartan over at bottom elevator to keep that crucial position under his control.
These boys clearly know you casting over them. They must have peeked over the desk. You know, let's make Walshy proud real quick as we see another insta-explode coming in. Sentinels defenses will not be denied. Quadrant are having such a tough time breaking through. Finally, they're able to do so. The nade ends up taking down the Quadrant player, but hold on, the ball's not played. That's bad.
No play ball is not gonna be good, especially if you're spawning over at the elevator. Now look at this, all these members of Sentinels gonna be charging across the map. But is this a great rotation? No, another denied rotation, so a forced rotation there from Quadrant, shut down again. I want to count that as the 3rd time that I feel like we've seen a rotation fail there from Quadrant. There's just something that's a slight disconnect, whether it's a new member on the squad or whether it's just the fast, aggressive play of these North American squads that is just a little too quick to deal with.
Sentinels keep cutting off those angles. Quadrant not able to put the points necessary on the board here, and Sentinel just 5 seconds away from coming out with the win. KingNick going in for the early pull, almost able to get it onto the glass side. Sadly, that ball falls.
Trying to toss it up, but do not desperate right here because you cannot overlook a squad like Quadrant. They had 2 members out for Sentinels. If they get a full setup, they can easily rack together 50 points with the right amount of slays.
And don't forget, it's just 1 round to take it. This is technically round number 3. Quadrant fighting for their game number 1 life right now here. They're able to get that ball over towards the spawning players here. Quadrant have to play perfect Halo. 1 false move and Sentinels are taking it.
And here comes the rotation. I've been critical of them before, saying if you failed rotations, they're gonna try and bring it over towards Elevator. Lqgend run into a fight over at Pipes. Doesn't get the trade with LethuL. LethuL getting the better of him. That's 2 down for Quadrant. That ball is going in the hands of Sentinels, and that's gonna be 87-88. And that's gonna be it. Sentinels are gonna be your game number 1 winner.
LethuL makes a clutch play. How many times have we said that? What a trade on Lqgend right there to open up the entire map and allow Sentinels to grab that ball and take game number 1.
And I gotta say, Quadrant are right there with them. I feel like if some of those ball rotations go slightly different, they get an extended setup, they get a play ball, they get a few other things going their way, but like I said, just falling short in a couple different ways. I don't know if you count that, like I said, just to a new member. I mean, 1 member of your team swapping out is a massive difference.
Quadrant clearly had the game plan, but now it's about execution, and sadly, they weren't able to execute in that game number 1. Sentinels take it, but game number 2 should be a different story. Shouldn't it be? It's a Slayer?
Yes, live fire Slayer, if I recall correctly.
Well, Sentinels are 7-1 in Slayer.
Whew, that's not a good sign. That if you're
7-1 in Slayer. Whew.
Well, that's gonna be a tough one to beat then. Like I said, when I looked at this game mode and map combination across the board, 4 out of the 5 I felt are fairly snowbally. Like on something like Recharge Oddball, it can just be so tough when the team has a full setup and you're spawning over an elevator or all the way towards C-Plat, all the way across the map. Similarly on Livefire, the team gets overshield snipe and gets a good setup. If they want to start spawn trapping a green or start pushing that advantage, it can be really tough to get to back down and get your numbers back up.
Livefire definitely one of the most punishing maps that we have here in Halo Infinite. And if you don't come prepared, you will end up going down quick. First to 50 kills takes the win. 12 minutes on the clock. Quadrant needs to answer back here in map number 2. Do they have it in them?
Well, they need to. They do not want to go down 0-2 in this series. They want to set themselves up the best they can here in pool play. Only 2 squads from this pool play go up into the upper bracket. One's going to the elimination bracket, and one is being eliminated from the tournament, and Quadrant want to be one of those top 2.
Overshield coming up on a delay here, so the fight for the sniper rifle won by Sentinels, but now it's the fight to stay alive. As that overshield comes up, you have to be able to set up around it. And you talked about that green side spawn. Quadrant getting locked in there for just a little bit. Spartan gets away with sniper once again.
And Sparty opting not to go towards top tower, just realizing that players are going to be looking for him around there. Now that Sparty realizes he has a teammate over towards tower, he's going to poke back over and try to help, but gets surprised by SLG and 1 other member, which is Lqgend. And a fight for the power-up begins. Kuhlect going to trade the overshield for that sniper and heat wave. I'll take that trade, yeah, might as well. Overshield's going to dissipate anyways.
Quadrant gonna struggle if they're not able to control the sniper rifle and the overshield. And as of right now, Sentinels have been locking it down, and Kuhlect looking to lock down tower.
I love that pre-fire there from Kuhlect after he got that snipe shot on the player over at Plasmas. Just instantly starts shooting the BR because knowing that that player is not gonna run towards top center, they're going to revert back over towards key door. He's just pre-firing his BR, hoping to get the headshot because you're not going to have a fast enough reaction to see someone around that corner react to it. So might as well start pulling the trigger and try to get that lucky shot.
Sentinels looking to create space here, giving Kuhlect all this room to work with over toward the tower side. But as I say that, LethuL falls, so does KingNick. That's going to be a double kill by Sica. Sica now chasing Kuhlect off of the tower side. They wipe Sentinels off of the C side, and that Quadrant now look to punish Sentinels off the spawn.
Sica now holding his top tower. I'm surprised he's gonna just leave. I guess that makes sense if he sees all his teammates fighting over towards Garage and wants to be a bigger effect over here on the overshield. But this whole entire time, Sica's just not gonna find anyone. Finally finds Kuhlect, makes him go towards bomb center, and Legend's gonna happily help finish off that kill. Legend Sica hunt down Kuhlect over in the tunnel, and they're gonna keep on pushing. 2-kill lead here for Quadrant. It's not stopping just yet with his OS.
Momentum shifts quickly, and Quadrant, the moment to get that overshield is also the moment they take the lead here, currently up by 2 kills. And you're seeing Legend trying to provide cover here onto the next side. His teammate comes up with the repulse. What started as a 1v1 now is a 2v2. A double kill by Legend makes it a 3v2. One more player to deal with it. Oh, he was hot. It's hot over here.
It is. It was like 80-something degrees yesterday. You gotta go for a dip every once in a while. But one thing that was so great there from Quadrant is they knew that Spartan was still somewhere nearby, because if you're paying attention to those names as they come across your screen, you saw Kuhlect kind of double back to help them fight when Spartan ducked away. And at some point, when you can keep track of the whole enemy team, it really adds up. You can say, all right, 3 of them were top center area. You now know if you can collapse and expose your back to different spots across the map. Whereas if you only know where 1 or 2 members are, you have to play differently and cautiously.
Information is a weapon here in Halo Infinite, and one the Sentinels are hopefully using masterfully to try to come back in this game, but watch you find yourself 3 down. Sentinels, watch out! Quadrant may have been 3 down, but the final player is SLG, and he has that sniper rifle, and I promise he knows what to do with it.
Absolutely, and I like this, just setting up over towards back tower. Nobody from Sentinel's gonna get there anytime soon, and he can be a huge factor towards this OS, but during this time he's rotating. Looks like he's gonna decide to get up close and personal with the snipe. Hits the no-scope on Kuhlect, push over towards Keydor, and creating the space for his teammate to grab the overshield.
Here's the Quadrant that we wanted to see, and so far they're answering right back with started off as a 2-kill lead for Sentinel, slipped away, and now Quadrant with a 7-kill lead. Legend steals away that overkill, chasing away the one-shot Sparty. Somehow Mitch flies out of there, but Kuhlect goes down trying to cover his back, and Quadrant keep control.
One thing I noticed, it just feels like when a member of Quadrant gets someone from Sentinel's weak, they're finding those angles to get those finishes. They're not letting them escape as much as you generally see here on Livefire. So kudos to them to try and hunt down those different positions. Look at the repulse back from LethuL. Legend decides to throw out a second grenade and get a trade, but it is just a massacre over at the plasma grenades.
And as right now, 2 Foxy and Sica just playing excellent Halo right now. 9 kills out of each of them, as LethuL does a great job of playing his life over to the sandbag side, but now gonna stare down the barrel of 3 different players, tries to take the 1v1, able to trade out his life here, but every trade is gonna work in favor of Quadrant. They have the lead.
Such a smart dance there from LethuL, realizing that if LethuL hightails it, not gonna be in range to get a melee trade, realize if he doubles back in challenges, fighting a 2v1, so forces the opposing team to make a move, forces them to both expose at the exact same time if they want to kill him without getting a trade. So that's why he's one of the best.
32-29 lead in favor of Quadrant still. Sentinels able to claw their way back into it just a bit here, but every time they do, Quadrant answer right back. Like not able to find the backsmack, gets put on skates there by Sica. That movement different over the EU. You didn't know he ain't move like that.
That dance move I have not seen just yet. Might be my age, or like you said, might be the Atlantic Ocean between us. But one thing is for certain, is we have a 5-kill lead for Quadrant, and they need to make sure they do not just throw that away. That is a significant enough lead that they can use those advantages to push on over to get towards this overshield, get towards that snipe. You can't just throw those lives away carelessly. And that's gonna be SLG grabbing the overshield. That's gonna be the 2nd or 3rd OS we've been seeing going in the hands of Quadrant.
The moment you said you didn't want to see Quadrant throw away that lead, they did go multiple down, but luckily SLG still comes away with that overshield, and that's going to be used to hold Sentinels back over toward the A side, 2 players trapped.
Love that play, though, too, by SLG, realizing those players were hunting him down, and he realized that if he doubled back over towards Keydor, a different spot, he's going to leave his teams down a member. So he decides to charge right back through tunnel and be a factor in that fight. There's always this interesting dance you do as a flanker, where you don't want to be too close where you get picked off from the majority of the opposing team, but if you're too far away, you're leaving your teammates a person down. So that was just that perfect dance you saw executed by SLG, just dancing back when too much pressure was on, going forward when the pressure wasn't on.
Woo! No scope right to the head by Kuhlect. We've seen how dominant he can be all tournament long with the sniper rifle, and if they're gonna come back, it's gonna be on the back of the sniper, down by 2, over towards the end game. Can Kuhlect dominate here?
And that's actually really scary. This is now a tie game. Quadrant had a 5-kill lead with overshield, and now that is gone, and there's still a sniper bullet left here for Sentinels. So I didn't want them to lose that lead. They've lost it. Now how are they gonna claw it back here? Because overshield's coming up in 30 seconds. Sentinels has the superior position.
Just barely missed out on that no scope, but has the numbers to keep Quadrant at bay, but goes in for the challenge while one shot. There's Sparty now gonna be left alone here over toward the tower side, and Quadrant now focusing on the teammates coming off a spawn.
This is interesting though. Quadrant kind of pushing all the way back through garage, now realizing overshield's coming up in 5, and now reverting back. Quadrant aren't going to have many angles on this OS. They're going to have sandbags, and they're going to have the cylinder itself. And look at this, 2 members of Quadrant fall. That's going to be 3. Lqgend, the only one left that's going to try and make something happen near this OS. And he does get it. It's 49-48. Can he pull off a kill soon? No room for error here for Quadrant, but they have a chance. There's no sniper left on the map. So Lqgend's going to have to make something happen. He runs in 2v1. What's he going to do? There's all 4 members. What a fight, and that's going to be a trade out kill, trade after trade, and somehow Quadrant pulled that out. They somehow killed 2 members over on the elbow. What happened?
That was an absolute fight over towards the end game. Sentinels won the Slaves battle, but somehow Quadrant were able to get away with that overshield. They had a 49-48, and with that overshield, they were overwhelmed on the A side. His overshield gets shredded, but that one trade was enough to give Quadrant the 1-kill lead they needed, and now we're going into a swing. Game number 3.
Everyone from Sentinels was just over on that elbow at the garage. And I was just like, all right, well, even though he has overshield, that's just gonna get shredded real quick, but somehow able to secure those 2 kills so fast. What a clutch ending, and surprising ending, to be frank, from Quadrant.
And once again, 2 Foxy. So much pressure. Big shoes to fill in Chick, and what does he do? He answers every single time. A 15-10 performance, although I love Lqgend with the 12 kills and the 10 assists to go along with it. But I'm saying all eyes are on 2 Foxy, and it's easy to crumble under that pressure, but he's thriving.
All eyes on 2 Foxy. So the stats show a couple things on different screens. You saw he had most kills, least deaths, but also least damage dealt and least damage taken. Those are also very telling stats. Sometimes just not knowing how to perfectly operate with this. But at the same time, if you're winning a clutch 50-49 here against Sentinels, what more do you want?
Yeah, I mean, the damage separated by just 200 apiece from everybody. It was a full team effort, and we got to take a look at these stats here. Sparty versus 2 Foxy, 50 kills out of Sparty so far, 48 out of 2 Foxy. The KD really close. I'm going to be watching out for this matchup the rest of the series long.
I'm interested to see 2 Foxy's full-on stats at the end of this series, because, you know, at some point, maybe that damage taken can be a little misleading, maybe on just a singular Slayer. But end of the day, these teams are neck and neck, and we're taking this one where to next, Tony? We're going to the streets. King of the Hill on the streets.
Who will be the king on the streets of New Mombasa? And a swing game number 3. You know, I'm really good at math, and I tell you, 98.7249% of the time, the team that wins game number 3 when the series is tied up usually wins out of the series. That's just facts.
Going to 7 significant figures there with that stat. That's why you're the best in the business, Tony.
Sentinels versus Quadrant. This is going to be a big one here. And now the question is, with that momentum shifting in favor of Quadrant, can they run away with it? Because Slayer's a lot different of a game type than, say, an objective, but Slayer's also where Sentinels usually thrive.
That's true, yes. Sentinels, like you said, they were 7-1, and make that 7-2, depending on what stat range you're looking at. So we are ourselves quite a series here on the main stage, but I believe we're gonna go look at the very end here of Believe the Hype versus Luminosity. And that's gonna be it, Believe the Hype. Winning that game, number 3, 3-1 here. King of the Hill on the street. So if you're keeping up on that B stream, you can pull that on up if you'd like to check it out and see that full series. But why would you want to go there when you got me and Tony here?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Exactly.
I mean, you got professional player, caster, analyst, one of the best looking people in the HCS, and you know I'm talking about me, right? I mean, you're cool. I mean, some guy named Dave, whatever. Yeah.
All right. I see how it is.
Yeah.
I see how it is. You want to get off to start like that?
Quadrant versus Sentinels. Gonna go at it this game number 3, and talk to me a little bit about Streets. What are some of your keys to success on winning on a map like Streets?
Oh man, it is tough on the streets. Obviously, you're looking towards those rockets. One thing that I was gonna say is gonna be very important here on like streets is with King of the Hill in a play and how it affects the timer, your coach let you know how and when those rockets are coming up, because you don't have as much of a consistent timer as something like Strongholds or as Slayer. You don't have the exact same consistent timer of knowing hair is coming up at the 2-minute mark at this spot at this time. Instead, you have to really rely on your coach to help you time that one. So that's gonna be one key, is focusing on the weapon. And then knowing which hills you want to get full control of and go for full slays, and which hills you want to get scrappy on. Some kills on streets, you don't need to have all 4 down, you don't need to have a full setup. In fact, you're gonna trade a kill or 2, grab 5 seconds of time, die, rinse and repeat, and win that hill just by those little advantages. So you need to realize which hills you're going for full setups and which ones you are getting scrappy.
We know the game plan. We know how important this matchup is. Now enough talk. Let's see them walk. Sentinels versus Quadrant. And of course, it's lethal that they would get away with the early rockets here. Multiple players alive on Sentinels. So when this hill comes up, Sentinels already controlling the B side of the map.
Controlling B side, LethuL a little out of place here, but he's gonna be kind of this counter for anyone coming out Tram, and there he catches Lqgend trying to go down those C stairs, gets punished right away, and here comes another one-on-one against Foxy, and his shots are gonna be perfect.
We go down for Quadrant here, but luckily SLG gonna answer right back with that Stalker Rifle, taking down 2 with them, Spartan, the leading Slayer, and now Quadrant looks to push up here. Kuhlect loses the Bulldog.
And a couple of individual fights that we're seeing more from the Sentinels roster versus working together. If you expect somebody holding towards that B balcony, you can get those crossfire shots over towards the C stairs. LethuL should not be having to fight someone one-on-one on C stairs when you have the B hill. So a little bit of a disconnect there from Sentinels roster. Maybe players getting tunnel vision, trying to fight individual fights and not realize where they have covered and where they need help.
And look at SLG, despite almost running into a 1v2, the way he's able to play his life masterfully and still holding on to that Stalker Rifle. That's now 4 kills in a row, but his teammates are going down left and right, and it's only a matter of time before he does as well, right?
SLG, that's going to be SLG's first death of the game. Almost going on a spree there, but showing how he was anchoring that entire time, just laying down shots with Stalker. Like you said, holding on to that Bulldog, kind of that perfect double threat up close and at far away.
Early control here for Sentinels over toward this hill. We see multiple members of Quadrant now surrounded the hill. Sica over toward the C side, a couple over towards the A, and that's going to pull out just for a moment here, reset things a little bit, but so far, that power weapon control went into the hands of Sentinels, but when SLG had that Stalker Rifle, woof.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, full-on power weapons in the hands of Sentinels, like rockets, but then kind of that next tier of weapons with the Bulldog and Stalker. I would say not even in the hands of Quadrant, in the hands of SLG. SLG is holding on to them the entire time, being selfish.
Yeah, I didn't know you could hold 3 weapons at the same time. I'm pretty sure I saw him at a thrust. I saw him at a BR and an AR. Man had everything on the map. Forget controlling the sandbox. He was the sandbox for a moment here as we're getting game number 3 ready for you. Again, we're tied up at 1 apiece right now. Sentinels came out hot in that game number 1. And Quadrant did respond well in game 2.
Yeah, and you also just saw the interesting strat of how when Quadrant didn't have anyone towards the hill, they heavily favored holding that tram area, just realizing that they felt they had a better angle of attack and approach, rather than getting spawn killed or letting go of tram area and trying to push that over from PD and tower. So pay attention to how Quadrant wants to hold that for that reason.
And, you know, having a player over toward that top Stalker Rifle spawn perch, when you're trying to push over toward the B side, you get a clear angle towards that hill, and it's dangerous. It's so annoying trying to hold the setup or trying to push in the setup when you're sitting over toward that Stalker Rifle spawn. And mind you, even if they lose that first hill or win it, where does it move over to? The subway side. So clearly Quadrant have a plan, and I like it so far. It's a great
Yeah,
point.
like you said, it's kind of a dual purpose. One, you're setting for the next hill. Obviously, early on the hill, they don't care about that as much, but they're setting the next hill. But then, secondly, like I said, it cuts off all those other angles across the map. If you have somebody like SLG holding down balcony with a stalker rifle, all of a sudden, all these members of Sentinels are just stuck in the hill. They don't really have a good angle towards balcony. If they come towards balcony, you get damage from the balcony, from balcony to rails. If anyone is pushing towards the side of the map like LethuL was, they're kind of a safe dog. You can try to pick off those players, and you just have more of a refined fight over there towards driveway and B stairs that you get to control.
So now on the other side of things with Sentinels, they were able to get that early rocket control. You also saw Kuhlect at one point had the Bulldog but lost it quick. SLG, once he got the Bulldog and Stalker Rifle, that's when he puts 4 kills in a row before going down. What are some of the things you saw from Sentinels or want to see from them?
What I want to see different from Sentinels, like I said, one counter that they need to do is if Sentinels have other players across the map, they really need to have a stronger presence towards B rails instead of just tunnel visioning over towards driveway. Make those players push all the way up towards driveway to contest your hill and your B rail player versus trying to fight a 1v1 at driveway. Driveway is a fight that favors the players and teams holding tram. Don't push over towards driveway unless you have the numbers or a damage advantage to take that over. That's what I want to see from Sentinels.
Well, just as important as the B rail is on streets, this car side on Aquarius controls the map, and Neurotic was showing he got the early access to the dynamo grenades, throwing a couple grenades over toward the spawning players as Believe the Hype move in for their first pull.
BTH getting control, trying to get that first pull, but we're gonna have to see what happens here. Neuronical's meeting so much damage there and have to back all the way over at the Luminosity base. So we're gonna have to see, now that they've broken out their base, can they push on in? And that's gonna be a no bullet. It's gonna take them on out. And just as I say that there from BTH versus Luminosity, like I said, you can catch that one on the B stream. We're gonna jump back in here in just a moment here with Sentinels versus Quadrant on Streets, King of the Hill.
Yeah, I heard you guys at home, y'all don't like breaks. So we ain't got no breaks. We go from game to game, showing the action at all times. We'll definitely keep you updated on that Believe the Hype versus Luminosity matchup. But this is the matchup that you're here for. Sentinels versus Quadrant. Who's coming out on top here in Streets? Game number 3.
And LethuL got the Rockets first last time. Gets a touch on this time, tosses them over towards the ATM. That's gonna be Kuhlect grabbing those and trying to stay alive, but that's 3 down here for Sentinel. Spartan McFly, the only one alive, and looks like SLG wants him dead, realizing that with that weapon still up for grabs, does not want to grab that time, but that's gonna be a couple staggered kills. Sica getting taken out, trying to take out Sparty. SLG dropping, trying to take out Sparty. So what looked like a great setup for Quadrant, where they had 3 alive and only 1 member of Sentinels, turned out to backfire.
We talked about how crazy SOG was playing with that Stalker Rifle over in that game number, I guess game number 3 before the reset, but sadly wasn't able to get that critical kill. KingNick answers back with a double kill, and now they're pushing right through the cafe.
And look at this from Sentinels. They do not want anyone from Quadrant behind them at all. They sent 3 members all the way over towards back tower, 2 of them going directly towards tower. KingNick going towards PD to block those and get additional angle to make sure nobody's spawned over there. So it looks like that's either Sentinel's strategy when they have someone behind them to quickly clear that out, or Sentinel strongly favor to have the opposing team spawn in tram as it's a B-sided hill. We'll have to see how that plays throughout different scenarios later this game.
That's a great call. I thought maybe Sentinels forgot we were playing King of the Hill and they thought we were playing Slayer. I didn't know, but controlling those spawns, keeping the pressure on as Quadrant now going 3 down, and we're gonna see another Rockets coming up already. Almost no progression on the hill for either team, and we're about to see another rocket launcher. Normally that comes when it's like 1-0 and moving towards the subway side.
Right, yeah, 2 rockets here on the first B hill. B hill's not even halfway captured here for Sentinels. Pretty much even on Slays, obviously a little ahead in favor of Sentinels. Quadrant for the first time though, getting 3 down and getting hill time. Last time they got 3 down, they did not get hill time. They tried to chase after that rocket launcher and were unsuccessful. I like this play from 2Foxy, putting some pressure on Tram, and these members are just gonna scrap up time, lay down shots towards Neon, and start to tie this hill up.
First time we're seeing Quadrant put some points on the board, and it looks like they're gonna take the lead with it, and 2Foxy still has a rocket in the back pocket looking to...
I'm pretty sure there's a Dr. Seuss book.
Yeah, I'm a rapper, you didn't know? Big kill by 2, Foxy. No more rockets left here, but Kuhlect still trying to come in and put some damage. Somehow able to take down SLG and live over towards the red side. Foxy not having any part of that. He's gonna chase them away.
And super impressive. Consider the Quadrant. This is their first time really getting set up on this hill, and they pretty much take it from 0 to 100. They go with pretty much a full capture, putting the first point on the board. So what a great start here for Quadrant here in the replay.
0 to 100 real quick, and a 1-0 lead here from Quadrant. And SLG continue to put the pressure on board. Quadrant already onto the southway side, and SLG trying to make it a hard cross, but Sparty gonna deal with him quickly, and now you give the dog the bulldog.
Yeah, it seemed like maybe an over challenge, but SLG likely was in a position saying, all right, I'm already this far up. They might not take their time and check all their corners, and he was gonna try to get further behind. And secondly, SLG's now gonna spawn behind them, so if Sentinels didn't push fast enough across the map, SLG was going to be a sandwich factor against Sentinels, and KingNick eventually found by the dumpster by SLG. So great push there from Sentinels after they got the initial pick on SLG, but the control still in the favor of Quadrant for the most part. What a good trade there. Both these squads fighting desperately for Tram and trading every single kill, but this one's going to now go in favor of Sentinels. 4 down for Quadrant. Rockets, Tram, everything in control for Sentinels.
And Sentinels are able to get a hold of the rockets, only able to get an assist through it. Can they at least get the control here as Lqgend is manning the B railing side, going all the way down to 1 shot. And Sentinels once again pulling off of that hill to chase down that player. They don't want anybody to survive.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great play by Lqgend, doing everything right, getting that damage towards Neons, making sure that player can't run away, who was Kuhlect over there. But it just took a little too long for those members of Quadrant to get that kill over towards Neon. So great play by Lqgend individually, but just not fast enough from the rest of the squad.
Spider gonna stay alive here with the commando. Meanwhile, there is a trade off the screen. KingNick and SLG go down. Kuhlect getting a big remote detonation, and this seaside is almost cleared out. Just one more play to deal with, but having no idea that Sica had the bulldog.
Good play by Sica. I was gonna say it's so difficult to sometimes slip by and get inside Tram because every area is so exposed. You're not gonna really slip by going through the front door or through C stairs. The only time you're really gonna be sneaky is if you jump up through the dumpster. But these teams are usually aware, their spidey senses tingle if they know that it's been a little too quiet for a little too long. So not sure exactly how Sica broke through, but breaking through that, his team needs to take advantage of it.
One of the newest faces here on a partner organization. Kuhlect had a great season 1 and continues that here in season 2. We saw the electrifying plays with that S7 sniper rifle. Now we're showing what it can do with the Stalker and Bulldog. This man just sports all the power weapons.
Doing everything right and no pressure here on Kuhlect just yet. And I like this play too. Interesting to have the Stalker rifle on your player in the hill. General players opt to have that over towards the balcony, somewhat up high, but generally all the fights you're gonna be fighting from the hill, especially when you have the team spawn across the map, are gonna be long range, and I'll take a Stalker fight long range.
Sentinels almost done with that subway side. And mind you, look at all of the time that's been drained off the clock. Only a minute on the clock here, and it's just a 1-0 lead in favor of Quadrant. Meanwhile, Sentinels are so close to taking that second hill. These teams are evenly matched, and they are fighting for every last bit of map control here.
Doing everything they can, and KingNick just in such a big brainer spot. Most players hiding all the way in that corner. You saw the pre-fire come out too foxy, but we have a little too smart of a play there from KingNick, just slightly adjusting where he's hiding. Sometimes a small difference, a small nuance of hiding in a slightly different spot is gonna throw off a player and be the difference between life and death. Now we got ourselves a 1-1 game, Tony. 49 seconds left, and we got ourselves the hill all the way towards the plaza.
KingNick's creativeness was enough to give them that hill, but will it be enough to have them push forward? Because Quadrant already rotating back, and once again, KingNick showing us how dangerous this disruptor can be. That player finally getting his shields back, and he's still hunted down. That disruptor, the residual damage lasts forever, it seems like.
Just giving it a harsh check right there as they tried to hide in PD and not getting much help there. So Here we have KingNick pushing up, taking up more ground, and what a great read. No one else knows she was hiding down there. Just damage after damage coming out of KingNick, realizing that he has now a death screen. No one players all coming from B side, and here comes the pinch. Spartan and LethuL putting the pressure right away, but is it a mistake? That's gonna be 3 charging from Quadrant. Both Spartan and LethuL taken down, and a time where they could have racked up more points in the hill is now gonna be Quadrant's setup.
What an answer back by Quadrant, but look at KingNick getting the double kill when his team was 3 down. We called out KingNick. We called out his stats in that game number 1, and he has really stepped up here on streaks.
And there's only 10 seconds left here. We're gonna have to see if they decide to commit towards this hill or if it's gonna be slay after slay. We go right into OT. We will have to see how this one pops out. But there's only 5 seconds left. Both teams opting for slays. When in doubt, you just need to slay. You cannot desperate and give the other team full control on the map.
This next capture is going to determine the winner here, and as I say, that Sentinels and the 4 down collect the first one off of respawn, trying to do any kind of damage here. I've casted maybe over 100 matches on streets, and I've never seen a 2-to-1 win in King of the Hill, and we're about to see one right here, right now.
More importantly, like you said, what, a minute left after the second hill was capped, so it's just like 0 time left here. Just so much back and forth on the very first hill. But this next fight or so could potentially determine it. Sica overextending arguably a little bit. There's just too many members there on the B side here for Sentinels, so Sica wisely backing down, but no, gets picked off by Kuhlect and LethuL. They no longer have to chase and hunt them down towards back tower, and KingNick's gonna happily take that position to that angle while Sentinels put some time on the board.
I told you, KingNick, one of the best destructor players in the game. He always makes sure he has one. I'll question whether he spawns with one or not, but Lqgend and 2 Foxy off the screen getting back-to-back kills. That's the break Quadrant are looking for, and now KingNick gonna be chased down. Spartan somehow gets a big kill.
Such a sick bait and switch there from Spartan KingNick. Realizes someone's near Cafe, and it's tough to clear these players out of here. Starts through with that number, but does not matter. Quadrant gonna put that time on the board instead of hunting those players towards back tower. So yes, they're doing great bait and switches. They were getting good kills, but in the end, Quadrant put time on the board, clearing out the back of the base, and going to win game number 3, 2-1.
No matter how strong those kills are, no matter how well you play your life, at the end of the day, that hill was on the other side of the map, and it looks like they're able to steal that one. A 2-to-1 win by Quadrant, and they go up also 2-to-1 in the series.
2-1 as well. They're gonna be going into game number 4, which is gonna be Aquarius, CTF, and look at those slays. Basically even. In fact, Quadrant got outslayed by 2 kills across that game, but wins the objective game 2-1. So showing that smart, efficient kills and smart, efficient grabbing of the hill is where it's at.
This was going to be a tough matchup for Quadrant going up against Sentinels, even if they had their full roster. But the fact that they have the sub coming in, I really questioned whether they were going to put up a fight. Honestly, I could have saw this being a 3-0 in favor of Sentinels because they're just not practiced with 2 Foxy. They're speaking a different language at this point, which is crazy to me. But Quadrant are here. Quadrant are dangerous, and 2 Foxy? Man, he might be the baddest man in the EU right now.
I am just so continually impressed by how much these EU squads have been stepping up year after year. Halo in North America had such a large head start in developing its competitive scene, in pros, playing, and org supporting, and EU somehow, despite that big disadvantage for years and years, have been able to get stronger and stronger and be able to put up incredible performances like this. So my props out to the EU Halo community. Right now, Quadrant are positioned, if they win the series, they are a shoe-in to take that first or second slot in the pool. You know, you gotta beat Sentinels, you gotta be an open team, and then Optic is a little different. You know, don't worry about Optic.
You don't have to beat him Optic?
I don't have Quadrant beating Optic, no.
You don't believe in 2 Foxy? Is that what you're saying?
I never said that. You're putting words in my mouth. You know, sort of like not believing the hype. I appreciate 2 Foxy. But I'm not sure if I believe in 2 Foxy to beat Optic.
Optic definitely another beast, but so far Quadrant have been impressing me. And let me tell you, he may not be in the starting lineup, but I'm just saying, all these EU organizations looking for a new 4th. I'm just 2 Foxy about to be available after Charlotte. Keep those DMs open, 2 Foxy. They gonna be people sliding in them.
Tufoxy absolutely performing so well in the situation, but I mean, these are the situations you dream of. You know, to get the opportunity to fill in as a fourth here on the strong Quadrant roster and playing on the main stage at the biggest, you know, at the open beginning here in 2023 out in Charlotte. It's just it's one of those opportunities that like it makes or breaks some careers.
Frank Sinatra once said, "The best success is massive revenge." So this one's for Chick Quadrant. Come out with the win here, take down Sentinels, pull off the upset. It starts right here, game number 4. You're 1 win away.
And look at this, 0 pressure over towards the car side. What is arguably the more important side to control when grabbing the flag and running the flag. We saw nobody really going from Sentinels, and look at this, Quadrant rewarded with the sizzle sticks, rewarded with the flag. They're running this all the way across, gonna get a slide? No, just gonna hold on to it, and gets flanked there by Kuhlect, so maybe not all the control they needed as they're running across, but a bit of a different prioritization I would expect there from Sentinels off the get-go.
You talked about it in game number 1, Sentinels have a way of cutting off those rotations and cutting off those angles on Quadrant, and you're even seeing that rear its ugly head here on Capture the Flag Aquarius. Now we have a flag standoff here, and a big kill by LethuL. Those both flags sit side by side. LethuL goes in for the flag touch, now going in for the challenge, ends up going down, but Sentinels are still grinding forward.
I love the flag run there by Sentinels, running it towards the opposing flag. My rule of thumb is if your team has more control than the other team, match the same flag path so that you can match firepower to get the recovery and the cap. If your team is down in numbers, run the flag to the opposite side of the map. Try to have them divert resources, spread them thin, and then draw it out into a flag stalemate. So great heads up play there by Sentinels to run the flag the same path that Quadrant had it since they had a numbers advantage.
Sentinels pulling one off of your playbook, and now, mind you, Quadrant once again going 3 down, and Sentinels find themselves in the base of Quadrant once again. That flag's being run. Quadrant are able to come off a spawn, but LethuL's gonna continue to push that flag forward here, right across the car side. We do see 1 kill in favor of Quadrant, but do they have any players across the map?
I like this play by LethuL. Once you have the flag all the way back in your base, slays are most important. Your team is going to have reinforcements faster. So right now, LethuL wants to prioritize kills rather than just despeраting the flag. And so he does a little of both. He gets the flag a little bit closer, gets that kill on Lqgend, and Sica, the only one left that has a chance of stopping it. And I feel like this is gonna be a flag number 2 going in here for the Sentinels.
And not every kill shows up the way that's value on the kill feed. The fact that LethuL was able to drop that flag, get that pivotal kill, he ends up going down, but if he doesn't get that one, Spartan doesn't cap that flag, so a big 2-0 so far for Sentinels trying to send this to a game 5.
Yeah, all of a sudden you have Lqgend just sitting in the back of the flag, blocking spawns, in position to toss that flag out into the bottom center. It makes that whole flag scenario completely different if LethuL does not pick up and clutch up that kill.
SLG wants to get his hands on those dynamo grenades, long-range shots, and information now being fed to the rest of his team as Quadrant look to push up into Sentinel's utility side. P side being controlled by Sentinels, so Sentinels giving up this side of the map. They're already overextending.
And Quadrant, SLG pushing in the back of the Sentinels base. Unfortunately meets him 1v1 against Nick, and now it's a tough position. Realizing, does he decide to go for a fight one-on-one and jumps on out? I would say that's just not having enough trust in knowing when teammates were gonna come on over, or just hearing that there was so much pressure over on the Quadrant flag that he felt that there was gonna be no pressure in the center of the map.
KingNick losing the fight over the Dynamos, but ends up winning that battle, now trying to stay alive. Nades are coming in left and right, and somehow KingNick, Dipsy doodling here, dancing over on the car side, stays alive, and now the rest of Sentinels have the opportunity to push up right as active camouflage is coming up soon.
KingNick, knowing that there's some weak players at the bottom of the map, does not spot them out right away and wisely decides to get some high ground. Sica, what a nice shot to take advantage of that thruster. Dodging also the melee, not trading a kill there with LethuL. Realizing that he was confident in his shots, that he was gonna thrust away instead of gonna trade. Look at the damage and nuisance still creating. There is nobody in position here from Sentinels. They might be able to get damage on the flag run, but they are not gonna get the kill to stop. That's gonna be a flag answered here by Quadrant.
Some Sica plays coming out of Sica. to make sure that flag gets across map, and now you're within striking distance. SLG putting the heat wave to work, bringing the heat down to one shot, forced to back down, but still has that camouflage, still has that heat wave, and Sentinels have to fight him and deal with them, and that's easier said than done.
And look at that, all the resources they had to spend just to take out SLG. That's Kuhlect going down, that's LethuL going down. 2 Foxy and Quadrant still have the utility under control, and they're putting the squeeze on all these members of Sentinels in the back of their base fighting for their lives. KingNick getting the answering kill on SLG, Sica going down. So Sentinels get the kills that they need, but that is such a difficult spot to be in. When you're fighting out of your base, your reward is you maybe get to move to the center of the map. However, if you're fighting your base and you lose, your loss is a flag. They end up bringing that flag all the way out, and you're not going to be a factor in that entire run.
Sentinels successfully able to clear Quadrant out of their base, and now they turn that defense into offense as Quadrant go 3 down right as Sentinels approach the 50% portion of the map. LethuL now coming in with thrust, PR, a couple of dynamo grenades. Quadrant better be careful. If they go down one more time, this will be a flag pull.
Camo coming up here in 24 seconds, Tony. I want to see if these members of Sentinels decide to go for a flagpole during this, or if they're gonna opt just to stay alive. 2 Foxy's been spending too long over on the fridge. In fact, SLG's getting a flagpole during this. This is gonna be bad for Quadrant here in just a moment. They revealed their hands, they overextended, and now Sentinels are gonna be able to get a flagpole and likely in a stronger position for camo, as LethuL is blocking those spawns over at util and the flag, forcing all those members of Quadrant to be over in the fridge.
These next couple of lives are going to be so important, and Sica taking the pivotal battle against LethuL, but a distraction. Sparty's able to get away with that camouflage. One more kill needed as 2 Foxy goes down. This flag is going to be relayed forward. What a play by Sentinels.
Flag still alive, just as I suspected. This one's not going to go in easy, though. There's going to need to be more slays. Sparty kind of not sure where to go just yet. Decides to get a touch and runs it all the way back. He runs it so fast, but his base is under attack. Lqgend all the way in the back, getting a kill on Sparty. Kuhlect the only one alive back here, and you know the pressure is coming in. And Kuhlect deciding, does he just desperate this flag in, or does he go for a fight? And he's too exposed there. You cannot take that route when you're one shot.
Quadrant able to overwhelm the base. Kuhlect goes for a high risk, high reward play, and it looks like it might just pay off because LethuL is able to get the touch, and that return already being started here by Sentinels.
Sentinels still in an okay position here. I still think Sentinels have the advantage, right? As I said before, when the flag's on your half of the map, if you trade kill for kill, your reinforcements are gonna spawn close, and that's all 4 down for Quadrant. That's the 3rd flag going in for Sentinels.
3-1 lead coming out of Sentinels. 2 caps away, or 4 minutes and 38 seconds away from going to a game number 5. Sentinels will not go down easily. Sparty making the sidekick the main character in this story as he deals with 1, make that 3, goes for the curve slide into the pole, but the final player alive, SLG, makes a play.
Great touch, though. Just getting that flag out of the base now doesn't require LethuL to go all the way on the flag, but unfortunately, too much presence across the map here for Quadrant, and Kuhlect's just going to be a nuisance in their back, a thorn in their sides, just continually rotating back and forth from the flag to the util. Just realizing that if he just gets kills, he stays alive, Quadrant are going to be in inferior positions.
So a player sitting in the back of their opponent's spawn and putting down damage, staying alive, being being that ratty type of player. Who does that remind me? I can't put my finger
I mean, it's just music to my ears. It just sounds like the perfect play style in Halo here. But look at these continual fights there. When we're looking at Sentinels, when they are around the sides of the map, when they're over in the back of Quadrant's base, they're just in these upper strong positions and continually shooting down on these players over at Quadrant, forcing them to do something impressive. I always felt Quadrant at the beginning of this game, they were doing everything right. They had control of the util side. They got the first pull, that first cap. They were doing everything great, but ever since then, it's been tough.
That must be so frustrating for 2 Fox. You know, Spartan's able to spot you out, almost able to take you down from the pivot. You try to get away, and you're just being called down, eventually taken down with that camouflage. Quadrant wanted to use it to get that pull, but once again, Sentinels clear out their base, and once again, Sentinels have an opportunity to charge forward.
Despite Sentinels having a comfortable lead, it has not been a comfortable game. Look how many times they've just had to fight out of the util. How many times have we seen this battle play over and over again? We see Quadrant with Heat Wave and Dynamo Grenades over in the Sentinels util. Sentinel members just run into one after the other, just having to give up their lives just to get the side of their base under control.
Quadrant's so good at continuously applying pressure here, and Sentinels are feeling it. They've been able to answer it so far, but how much can you take before you bend? How much can you take before you break?
Look at the same battle once again, and SLG clutching it up, getting the reversal on LethuL, getting the last shot on KingNick, and I feel like we're just having deja vu over and over again. Quadrant members over the Sentinels util, and battle after battle deciding who's gonna get control. Sparty somehow get a double kill on 2 Foxy and Sica. So just as we see a clutch double kill from SLG, we see a clutch double kill from Sparty, equalizing out those numbers.
Luckily for Quadrant, they were able to burn that camouflage before going 3 down, so not quite a win, but a good job. Great awareness coming out of them, but Quadrant still now have to show what they can do on their defensive side. Sentinel show they can continuously clear out their base. Quadrant gonna have to do the same thing, and mind you, there's only a minute 30 for Quadrant to put 2 on the board.
Minute 30, Sentinels know that Quadrant are going more on the offensive, and they now have to decide, do they want to put this into a flag stalemate and push a flag out, or do they just want to go back and go for the slaying game? Looks like LethuL decides to toss this one out, and in the event that they get more slays, they're going to run across. That's 3 down. SLG is the last one down. This is going to be the dagger. Sentinels going for their 4th cap, and interestingly enough, Sparty even just blocking Fridge, because guess what? If they're spawning all the way back in their base, they're not going to be able to easily get it over towards the Sentinels base, and they somehow need to acquire 3 captures in 60 seconds.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's over, but Sentinels definitely look like the favorites, and I've been telling y'all, us from New Jersey, we just different. KingNick with the 20 kills, 9 assists. Sparty with the 23 kills and 14 assists, and Kuhlect ready to put the final nail in the coffin.
I thought they were just going to play this one slow and safe, but they decide to go for all 5 caps. Sparty gets taken down. Kuhlect's going to try to slowly ease this flag in. Sprints on over, and that is going to be stopped once again. So unless somehow Quadrant get a unblocked flag line running it all the way across, I still think this one is still going to be a 4-1 victory.
Yeah, I love that by Quadrant, though. You know, they're not quitting. They obviously know they're going to lose this this game right here. We're going to a game number 5, but they're not just going to roll over. They are going to fight every last second, and every last second has been accumulated here. Sentinels are going to win that 4-1, and we are going to a game number 5. Those are my 2 favorite words in Halo.
Also with the stat lines being highlighted more these days, I think people are realizing, saying, well, guess what? Nowhere in the stats is there an asterisk that says 5 of these deaths were in the last 20 seconds of a game that didn't matter. It's like, no, stats still just show the same across the board, so maybe these players playing it all the way out till the very end.
That's how I don't care if I win or lose. I just want to say it wasn't my fault. I'm stat padded all day. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, as long as I go positive, that was on you guys. That's probably why I'm a terrible ranked teammate.
Well, what a huge comeback there and statement from Sentinels to win that one 4-1. Series now tied 2-2. Game number 5 is going to be Imperium Slayer. That one can be a swing. If you get the opposing team's turret, you get control of those snipes, it can take a big snowball lead for the squads. But before we talk about Imperium, let's take a quick look at the stats once again. Spartan McFly, 25, 17, and 15. Biggest numbers on the board there for Sentinels and the entire game.
What stands out to me for Sentinels is the assist. Everybody double digits across the board here for Sentinels. So every time Quadrant continued to pressure that base, it took a full team effort to get them out. Those 1v1 fights don't work when that pressure is coming in, and that's why you see all of those assists across the board for Sentinels. That defensive strategy worked out. They cleared out their base, and it continued to push forward right off of it. Well played by them.
Yeah, 17 assists there from 2 Foxy. Taking a quick look over at the rest of the stats, though. Obviously, LethuL put in 2 of the flags. Kuhlect and Sparty putting in 1 apiece. Lqgend the 1 sole flag for his roster.
It was a good flag cap.
Yeah,
it was a
great flag cap. Just need to see a couple more of them.
Imperium Slayer going to be our game number 5. And you talked about it. It's going to be tough for either one of them, man. It's Quadrant offense versus Sentinels defense. But before that, there was plenty of highlights throughout this entire series. Why don't we take a look at some of them?
Yeah, look at SLG holding on to that stalk rifle. Also, one thing I noticed, it had 7% left in that stalk rifle. He grabbed that from the weapon rack and used it until nearly the very last bullet. So just making perfect effective use of that bulldog and that stalker rifle.
Every time he had that stalker rifle, it was dangerous. But I also love KingNick really showing us what that sandbox is truly made of with that disruptor. There's so much damage you can do, that residual damage, bouncing it off of those weird nade pads and weapons on the ground. I love the fact that KingNick is really able to open up the playbook a little bit, but there is no disruptor on Imperium.
Absolutely, yeah. One thing that's also interesting, we haven't really seen used as much with something like the Disruptor, is just how that delayed damage can come into play if you trade damage with a player. Someone pokes out, you fight BR versus Disruptor. You trade out, let's say, half your shields each. KingNick can roll out as soon as the shields come back, and the other person's shields are still going to be starting to regenerate with that delayed damage coming out of Disruptor.
So we're going into a game number 5, and this has been a hard-fought battle. You know, let's say your team captain or your coach Chig or whoever it is, you're coming in. What are you telling your team to make sure that you win this game number 5? How are you motivating your crew?
Well, LethuL might be calling people idiots on Twitter right now, so that might be what he's doing before the match goes on. But what you're doing before this one is saying, hey, we took it game by game. You were down 2-1. This is what you were hoping for. As you were down in the series, you wanted this game 5. Quadrant, we're not looking forward to this. They wanted to close this one out on Aquarius, so you want to continue that momentum. Keep a positive vibe on your team. Say, we were looking for this game 5, now let's close out the series. Now, what's that going to look like on a game like Empyrean? Is your team more of a sit back, protect your sniper, wait for them to make a mistake, and then charge across? Or are you the aggressive team? Do you want to try to find a push across the map, pushing through sword side, try to make something happen versus waiting for a mistake? And that all comes down to your team's gameplay. Just sometimes remind your team what your win conditions are and how you play can reinforce that habit, because the worst thing that can happen sometimes in a game 5 is if somebody plays completely unorthodox. They don't play the way they normally do. If you have someone that's normally aggressive and making a play that happens so your team can charge across the map and they have 1 or 2 deaths and they say, oh, well, I'm gonna sit back. I don't want to be the reason my team loses game 5. I don't want to have too many deaths. That could be a detriment. Even though it might look better on their individual stat score, you need that player to play consistently, because those are the openings your team needs to win the game, to get that full setup, to get over to the opposing tower.
It's all about being that unselfish player. Why don't we take a look at some of the stats and what's jumping out on the screen that you? I see Kuhlect with the highest KD on one side. I see Sica with the highest KD. But what else is jumping out to the screen for you?
I would say the amounts of damage. One thing that's surprising is Spartan with the lowest damage by a margin on here on Sentinels. Yeah. And then one thing, like I said, I couldn't tell if this was just a one-off as we saw on Live Fire Slayer for 2Foxy, but 2Foxy also off by a margin there on total damage output. I think damage dealt is one of those great indicators. You know, I've talked about stats before with like Lucid, and he's like, yes, it's a piece of the story, it's not the full story, but damage dealt for the most part to me says you are doing work across the map, whether that's getting an engagement and finishing off your kill, whether that's getting a melee off before you die so that your teammates can pick off that finish. It's just such a strong indicator of how involved in the game you are.
Now, you've obviously had plenty of battles on Pit, which Empyrean is the remake. Now, with that damage, does that directly correlate into, like, if a team's doing more damage, does that come out of the wins on Empyrean, or is that going to play a little bit different? Is it more of a shifty map? How does that translate into Empyrean?
That's a good question, because I would say on Empyrean, it's a good stat if you're the one that's racking up kills, because that means you're finishing off some kills, you're getting some with your sniper, your rockets. But if you are getting too much damage dealt that's not being finished, some points you're probably taking too many wrong engagements. You're exposing yourself to too many times where you can get picked off. If you're trying to just peek out through Green Hall or through the bridge just to lay out a couple shots, like, that's not the damage you're looking for in Empyrean. You're seeing a lot more damage on Empyrean result in a kill. You want to see that damage turn into a flanker, turn into somebody getting over towards top turret, towards getting towards a spawn kill. You want that to really translate to something else. So compared to other maps, I would say Empyrean, you want to, it's not as much of get as much damage dealt as possible and be as active across the map. Instead, it's going to be very concentrated efforts across the map. Get some damage towards sword side, get someone flanking through runway, and get towards the opposing turret. Ultimately, these teams are just vying for those power weapons, those snipers, the rockets, and that overshield, or they're vying to get in the opposing top turret because it's such a difficult spot to clear an opponent out of.
I'm glad we have Quadrant on screen right here. I went back of the heads a little bit, but we saw them on screen because, to me, they're the biggest question marks going into the Empyrean Slayer. Like, I love that ultra-aggressive playstyle. I love that the fact that they're not afraid to pressure Sentinels, to get into their face. And on a map like, Empyrean, which doesn't have dynamic spawns, you can punish a team for going 2, 3, 4 down, but we've also seen like the optic way of playing it, where it's like the bend but don't break strategy, where they kind of control their side. There's so many ways you can play Empyrean Slayer.
You can play it, and I do predict that Empyrean will have more slower periods as the map evolves, as we get later in the season. But with it still being so fresh, and I think that these teams can still take such a strong advantage, like you said, of pushing over and being aggressive and taking that top turret. Halo and like all these other top games is about risk versus reward. And right now, the risk versus reward factor is heavily in your favor if you mess up, let's say 3 pushes towards the opposing turret, but you get the 4th one to work. At that point, you can rack up 10, 15 kills just because of how the spawns can be so focused and concentrated on that half of the map with the way it's currently designed.
So it almost makes sense to maybe make the unorthodox play, maybe try to get yourself through runway, try to get yourself, and maybe if you're pushing even by yourself, but try to get to your opponent's tower, because like once you get there, it's a power position.
It is. It also relies on the backup from your team. So I also don't view it as just like a singular play. I don't think anyone at this high level play is just gonna single-handedly flank the runway on their own. But what's gonna likely happen is if a sniper gets a pick over towards the opposing sword or opposing top turret, pushing through sword, pushing someone through runway, immediately trying to fill in that gap where the opposing team can't punish it right away. I think that's where we're gonna see some successes here that are gonna come out in Charlotte on Empyrean. Things will eventually get locked out a bit more later in the year, but we are gonna see some big old swings here on Empyrean here in Charlotte.
All my oldies are gonna be happy about this, like my man sitting right next to me, Walshy. It's Pit, the remake Empyrean, game number 5 Slayer, winner takes all.
Not only is it winner takes all in the series, this is likely gonna be for the 2nd upper bracket slot here in Pool B. So this series cannot be understated. This can determine if you're going to upper bracket or lower bracket in the double M. Sica has the overshield, trying to put some pressure. Kuhlect going down with a heat wave, doing so much damage. That overshield has got to be gone and negated at this point. And Sentinels hold on to a 1-kill lead. Now, do they want to get aggressive and push this? Looks like Sparty's going to take an unorthodox angle like we talked about and bring the sniper all the way towards long haul.
Sparty, one of the most dangerous sniper rifles players in the game here. As Quadrant go forward down,
and look
now
at that.
Sense an opportunity to punish them.
Yeah, look at that understanding the spawn system. 3 went down, then getting that 4th down, and Sparty says, all right, I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna leave the Mauler spawns open, and Spartan's over towards top turret. Or sorry, KingNick's towards top turret, and look at this. Look at this damage like we called out before. KingNick towards top turret. Nobody can push out easily through the Needler side or from Mauler all the way out towards the opposing side of the base. It's still a 10-0 shutout. If outside of the game, this would be a mercy rule. You say, all right, game over, mercy rule, 10-0, restart the next one.
Let me tell you, man, Quadrant must be getting coached by my cousin Owen. My cousin Owen 12 right now. My God, somebody tell him the game started. Sparty and Sentinels are running house here and punishing them. Every single spawn that has reticle trained on them.
But this is the danger of a map like Empyrean, the way it's designed. They were able to get that first sniper down. They had control of the entire map. So Sentinels finding that one win of opportunity, getting the slays, and turning that 3 or 4 kills into 14 kills. So masterfully played by them. They're also not fully overcommitted right here. Look at this play. They realize they still have bridge. They can just rotate back and forth. They know weapons and power-ups are gonna come up shortly. And they still, even though they gave up 1 kill and some members of Quadrant got out of the base, anytime they're gonna Quadrant member dead, they are going for those spawn kills rather than trying to get full map control, because they're not gonna successfully be able to just charge all the way back towards the Sentinels base with ease and get those clears.
KingNick hasn't had the most consistent series so far here, but when he pops off 7-0 before finally getting his first death, even having an assist to go along with it, a large reason why Sentinels have a dominant double-digit lead as Sparty strips the overshield off of the dead bodies of Quadrant, uses it immediately to get the double kill. Now gonna look for the triple. He refused to be repulsed off the map. He's gonna play this side and eventually should find that kill. Right?
Not only just repulsed, but I think he was also just trying to avoid the melee. Eventually got a little fed up and said he's gonna charge on over. But what a great play there from Sparty to wait for the last moment to drop on that OS, get the kill, also snatch that OS so it doesn't fall off the map, and just patiently get kill after kill. He was in no rush. Decides to reposition the sniper over towards sword side. KingNick, where is his throne? I guess it's over towards top turret still, as this has been his home for this entire game.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you that at one point, this was a 2-1 series lead in favor of Quadrant, and this has been neck and neck, an absolute fight. But here in game number 5, it has been all Sentinels. Sparty is 9-1. KingNick is 11-2. This is bad. This is bad for Quadrant.
And that was actually interesting. Oh yeah, KingNick eventually got picked off there. I was gonna say, why would KingNick leave tower? But looks like as soon as they lost that top tower, that is Sentinel's note to say, all right, we no longer have the position at the opposing base that we want. Everyone can back up. Don't overforce and give up any free kills. And look at this, going for a montage clip. Sparty eventually taken down, but the damage has been done. 20 kill lead for Sentinels. Right now, they're just worried about getting Ace or Slays and not getting spawn trapped themselves, because it's totally an option right now if Quadrant continue this pressure on and get the Sentinels top turret.
Sparty must have forgot that he ain't on phase anymore, going for those trick shots. You want Sentinels down, man. They known for something different. They known for dominating teams the same way that you see right here, a 32-14 lead for Sentinels, and Quadrant are struggling right now. Something has to change.
Also interesting from KingNick, just barely missing that that grenade through the green slot. A lot of times you get someone weak over at green, you can bank that grenade through that small little opening, that small horizontal opening, and get it deep inside green to pick off someone who's run away where they expect to not be grenaded.
At this point, Sentinels are nading each other, trying to give Quadrant some kind of hope here. Rocket launcher coming up. It looks like Quadrant gonna dive right in. Lqgend gets no-scopes right to the body here. It looks like KingNick able to pick it up, but Foxy will remain with the Rockets. Sentinels end up getting wiped here, so now you have Rockets and Overshield in the hands of Quadrant. If a comeback is possible, it's going to be on the backs of both of these power runners.
It is, but I would expect them to take over towards top turret. In fact, looks like Sentinels trying to go a step ahead. They run into the trap of Foxy. They just assumed that top turret was going to be taken, and the pressure is matched all the way through long haul. That's 4 down for Sentinels. But still, we have yet to see top turret taken. Sica, I love that play. That's so sick. Repulse, overshield top turret. They thought it was a safe spot, and then they tried to get over more positioning on their base. In fact, it was not safe though, because Sica just took a sneaky route to get that power position.
It isn't over till it's over, and although it looks bleak, Quadrant still have an opportunity to come back here. The 40 kill mark has not been reached yet.
Absolutely not over yet, because right now, Quadrant have control of the Sentinel space. Sniper come up in 20 seconds to say, this is a strong position here for Quadrant if they can hold on to their lives, but they are in some trouble. Actually, Sniper already popped. I don't know who has it. Did they run it out towards Sword? SLG maybe had it, but right now that spawn trap has been broken. So what was looking like a glimmer of hope here for Quadrant is gone. Kuhlect now has a full sniper back at his base. Quadrant don't have the extra lives to toss to try to get a top turret control, and this is going to be a slow bleed, I feel, and fear for Quadrant.
Just 6 kills needed for Sentinels. Meanwhile, holding on to a double-digit lead. Kuhlect with the sniper rifle in hands right now. And Quadrant forced to slow the game down entirely. Like you said, there's no lives they can waste at the moment here. And Sentinels have no problem doing the same thing, staying on their side. And 5 minutes on the clock, I'm assuming we're not going to see this for 5 minutes.
I don't think we'll see it for 5 minutes, but right now Quadrant, you know, they're seeing the writing on the wall. It's a difficult spot to be in when you're down by so much and you're just kind of saying, well, what do we even do here? They have sniper, they have positioning. But the one thing you can do and hope for is you have to play around the power weapons. And secondly, if that opening presents itself, they need to all charge across the map. It feels like it could be a desperate play and potentially give up kills, but ultimately, you're just gonna wait and die and lose this game anyway, so your only shot of winning is gaining control of the opposing base. Here comes the push here from Quadrant. 2 members get taken down by Spartan, though. That is now only 4 kills away for KingNick, and KingNick wants to go to KingNick's throne, where he's been this entire game, over on the Quadrant turret.
Sentinels waiting for the right opportunity to get into the offensive set, and that's exactly the overshoot is coming up. And not only does KingNick have a little bit of that overshoot to work with, he even has the heat wave as well. Back-to-back kills for Sentinels. Quadrant go down.
50-31 victory. Strong statement for Sentinels, but Quadrant should still hang their heads high because that was an impressive matchup from both these sides, especially given all the circumstances and issues that their squad was facing coming into this event.
If there's one thing I learned from that series is don't count Quadrant out.
Not
Team
at all.
Foxy's the real deal. Even in that, like I think maybe ended like 10-8, so he still ended a positive with a low amount of deaths. Like some way, somehow, 2 Foxy just shows his real skill set. It shows that the way Quadrant play is the way that he wanted to play when he was on Na'Vi. He wants to play fast. He wants to play pressure Halo. And honestly, 2 Foxy really impressed me despite the fact that Sentinels ended up with the win on that
It's
one.
just a heartbreaker of a Game 5 as well. Like we talked about, you know, as we were breaking down Empyrean/Pit, it's a snowbally map. If the opposing team gets that full setup like that, it can snowball. We saw it with a 14-0 or 15-0 start there. And that's essentially the lead that they carried on to the end of the game.
16 kills, 6 assists to go along with it with KingNick, and also 4,500 damage. Even when KingNick wasn't putting up all of the stats in the world, he still had high damage in the games that he pops off, really shows up in the stat sheet. My X factor for that game was KingNick all day.
KingNick was crushing just over on that top turret. It's just a strong position, and he knows probably those small nuanced differences, knowing how to dodge grenades coming from the back ramp, anyone lobbing grenades towards top turret, just doing a really, really good job.